Well, I was planning on making a video like this anyways, but I guess IGN just wants to do that work for me, so thank you, IGN. By the way, the article linked below in the description section. Red Dead Redemption 2, a who's who of Dutch's gang. And before we continue, I would like to know, of all the members of Dutch's gang, new and old, who's your favorite, or who's the character you're most interested in? No, you cannot pick John Marston. You have to pick somebody else. That's the rule. So whoever you're most intrigued by besides John Marston regarding Dutch's gang and Red Dead Redemption 2, feel free, let me know below in the comment section. And why? What is it about that character that you're most interested in? And yeah, it can be a character from Red Dead Redemption, or it can be a new character in Red Dead Redemption 2, as long as they're officially a member of Dutch's gang. And by the way, if you haven't played Red Dead Redemption, there will be spoilers in this video, unfortunately. So I'm sure most of you know how Red Dead Redemption ends. I mean, the game's 8 years old, so hopefully most of you have. But either way, I had to throw that disclaimer up. Spoilers are coming. Yes, they are. After seeing Red Dead Redemption 2 in action, I wish the rest of us would have, been nice if Rockstar would put out that 45-minute demo, but you can't have everything in life. Along with the most recent trailer, IGN knows that Red Dead 2's story is going to focus on how the Vanderlin gang goes from being one of the most notorious gangs of the Old West to an old scattered handful of fugitives. IGN didn't meet each and every member of this band of outlaws during their first look of the game, but IGN did get to know a few of the key players, and that's what we're going to go by, the members of the Vanderlin gang that we already know about, thanks to the trailer, thanks to all the information that came out on Thursday. So we're going to start off with the main man himself, the leader of Dutch's gang, Dutch Vanderlin. And by the way, Dutch is my pick because of how high John talked about Dutch back in Red Dead Redemption. He always spoke very highly of him, as like Dutch was a father figure to Marston on all the ideas and the beliefs that Dutch had in being kind of like a Robin Hood type, anti-establishment. And why did Dutch go from that kind of guy to, the shell of a man he is, in Red Dead Redemption? What causes that? And I'm guessing we're going to find out in Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay, so the leader of the Vanderlin gang, Dutch, has a dream to live a life that's free of restrictions of government law. He has a knack for inspiring the people who follow him to great ambitions, which makes him especially dangerous to the authorities pursuing him, especially since he views the government and law enforcement as the ultimate criminals, ones who will sow destruction to further their own ends. Dutch eventually meets his end in 1911 in the mountains above West Elizabeth. He takes his own life, torn between his inability to stop fighting against the changing world and knowing he cannot prevent said change. It's likely we'll see the effect of the nature that has on him and the rest of the gang throughout Red Dead Redemption 2. And it was a tragic tale. A guy that was out there trying to make a difference, who believed that the government was corrupt, that law enforcement were the bad guys, and in a way he was generally, according to Marston, trying to actually help people. He was, robbing from the rich, and he was actually helping out the less fortunate. But eventually, he does become selfish, and that's one thing we learned about yesterday, was his focus is, in Red Dead Redemption 2, to make as much money as he can, because Dutch wants to eventually head back out west. So we're going to see how all of it breaks down in October when Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out. The next character in Dutch's gang is the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2, and it is Arthur Morgan. Arthur is Dutch Vanderlin's right-hand man, chief enforcer of the gang, recruited at a young age. He's lived the outlaw life ever since and adopted Dutch's dream of a free outside rule of law. And of course, you can learn a lot more about him in this previous article, which I did a video about as well. It's up in the channel in the playlist for Red Dead. And we do learn a great deal about Arthur, from the second trailer. It shows how much of a badass he is. He basically threatens a young man, to put him in the ground so that his mourning mother will continue wearing black because of whatever reason. So this is a guy who is an outlaw. He's a badass. But in trailer 3, we see a different side of Arthur Morgan, kind of like tired, fed up. And I like that. I like the fact that there's going to be a complexity to Arthur And in the articles yesterday, they talked about how the player is going to be able to craft Arthur to their liking. There's going to be the honor system. It's coming back. And the fact that whenever you greet people, you'll have some options. You'll be able to just simply greet them and be friendly, or you can be antagonistic. So you can either be nice, try to be nice to everybody, or you could be reactionary like I'm going to be. If people are nice to me, I'll be nice to them. If they're an asshole to me, well, I'm going to be an ass to them, or just be a dick to everybody. And I also really like the fact that from everything we know so far, only one protagonist, as far as we know, that we're going to play as in Red Dead Redemption 2. I felt like in Grand Theft Auto 5, that was lightning in the bottle formula, having 3 protagonists, Michael, Trevor, and Franklin. But to repeat it, especially this soon after Grand Theft Auto 5, I had the fear that it wouldn't work. Now, I realize that technically Red Dead Redemption has 2 protagonists. We'll talk about that in a minute. And it wouldn't surprise me if the same thing happens in Red Dead Redemption 2. But only time will tell. The next protagonist, well, the former protagonist, well, from the future, that's right, the future of Red Dead Redemption is John Marston. We have a 12 years younger John Marston in Dutch's gang in 1899. Yeah, it's 1899. All right, so the troubled hero, the original Red Dead Redemption, the younger version of John, will see this way likely be less of a beleaguered altruist than his 1911 family man counterpart. Thanks to the most recent trailer, we can see, assuming that he obtained his injuries at some point during the events of Red Dead Redemption 2, and it's likely that it's also where he meets his wife-to-be, Abigail. Okay, so I need to correct IGN on this one small issue. According to, let's see, Red Dead Wiki, which I read the other day, because I was planning something very similar to this, Jack Marston is already born. Jack Marston, according to Red Dead Wiki, according to the information we got from Red Dead Redemption, Jack Marston, John Marston's son, was born in 1895. So that means Jack is, what, 4 years old? He's 3 or 4 years old by the events of 1899. So that means that Marston is already hooked up with Abigail, and chances are, you know, she's already his wife. And we may not even see Abigail or Jack in Red Dead Redemption 2. I just want to go with the timeline that's already set. Like 1895 is when Jack Marston is born. So he met Abigail already. They already fell in love, and they already have a kid. Now, I think they have another kid that dies, but I don't think they ever named their daughter. But I think that they also had a daughter as well. But we do know that they have a son, Jack. And according to the timeline, 1899, Red Dead Redemption 2, Jack Marston is 3 or 4 years old. Next, we find ourselves with another familiar face from Red Dead Redemption. He has that awesome Carrick beard, and that's like the only really good thing about this guy. Bill Williamson. Bill manages to be one of the few members of Dutch's gang who doesn't either get killed or go crazy. That's debatable. Though he's always a bit mad to begin with, impulsive, brash, violent, and stupid. Yep, he is stupid. Williamson may make for a valuable gun on a robbery, but will likely prove himself as a liability to the rest of the gang. We know that Williamson survives the fall of the Vanderlin gang and eventually takes up residency in New Austin, establishing a headquarters for his own gang inside Fort Mercer outside the town of Armadillo. He dies in Mexico in 1911, killed after a rebel army disposes the corrupt General DeSanta, who Williamson was providing aid to. Speaking of familiar faces, it is confirmed that this guy is in fact Xavier Escuela. And we didn't really get as much time of him, in my opinion, in Red Dead Redemption. And he obviously is dressing a lot cleaner in Red Dead Redemption 2. But I definitely like his look here. Another member of the gang we know from the original Red Dead Redemption in 1911, Xavier, has returned to his home country of Mexico and can be found and captured or killed working as a hired gun for authoritarian rule of President Sanchez, Colonel Allende, and Captain DeSanta. However, in 1899, Xavier seems to be less the sly and slightly manic gunman we saw in Red Dead Redemption, and the more of a brooding, stoic young man, though it's not his only trait. We saw him plucking aimlessly at a guitar in our demo, and it's likely provides the camp with much more lively entertainment when the group is in high spirits. So I definitely hope we learn a lot more about Xavier. I hope he gets more time in Red Dead Redemption 2 than he got in Red Dead Redemption, because we were only with him for a very short period of time compared to, say, Bill Williamson or Dutch or some of the other characters that Marston ran across in Red Dead Redemption. So hopefully we get Xavier's character fleshed out a little bit more in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, one of the new characters I'm very much excited about is Sadie Adler. While it wasn't unheard of for women to turn to the outlaw life, few have such a knack for getting in and out of trouble as Sadie Adler. And we're first introduced to her actually in, I think, the first trailer. Because you have the outlaws riding over the mountains, over the plains, towards the mountains, actually. And one of them is clearly female. And if you go by this screenshot, I believe the screenshot was from the Telegraph. She's wearing the same outfit that that female outlaw was wearing on horseback in the first trailer 84 years ago whenever we saw the first trailer. Yes, it's been that long. Just kidding. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what kind of character Sadie is. She strikes me as a badass. She doesn't seem to take shit from people. She's very quick to throw a knife into somebody's hand or a knife into other people's body parts if she feels so inclined. And she also appears to have some sort of friendship with John Marston. Several screenshots came out Thursday showing them in a gunfight together, side by side. Does that imply that they're friends, or potentially more than friends? Bear in mind that John Marston is already with Abigail and Jack is 4 years old. Unless they're going to go this whole route that he got Abigail pregnant in 1895. He doesn't know she had a kid, and then later on he finds out that she had a kid or kids. And until then, they're technically not married, and they only get married later on in the early 1900s. We really don't know. That's one of those mysteries that we'll never have the answer to. But we do know this about John Marston, is he's a happily married man, and no brothel in the world can change that, apparently. Not even Bonnie. I mean, come on, it's Bonnie. Jeez, John. But so does that mean that a 12 years younger John Marston is the same way? Is he just as faithful in 1899 as he is in 1911? Yeah, that's one of the mysteries we may find out. Whether or not Sadie actually ends up being a love interest of John or Arthur's or Karen's. I mean, she could go that way. We don't know. I mean, don't judge. But anyways, I guess we're going to find out how these characters work together or don't work together in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, this is going to be a very interesting character that we're going to have to deal with. Member of the Dutch's gang, Micah Bell. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's the one who said the quote in trailer number 3, you know, Dutch's sons, but sometimes brothers make mistakes. So he considers all the sons of Dutch to be brothers, even though brothers make mistakes. It seems like, you know, him and Arthur are going to be kind of foils to each other. They're going to be at odds. Whether Micah's in the right or in the wrong in those circumstances remain to be seen. But Micah is one of Dutch's favorite gunmen, though how loyal Bell remains to the Vanderlin gang remains to be seen. So it's possible that Micah may not be as loyal to the gang as, say, some of the other members of the gang are. Or maybe he just sees himself as a rival to Arthur, and maybe he just wants to take Arthur's place and become the number 2 guy. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of character Micah is whenever Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out. But I'm getting the feeling that this guy is going to cause some issues, just like Bill Williamson is. So there's obviously characters in the game that I think Arthur's going to be more allied with, like John Marston, as well as Sadie. And some of the other characters, not so much. And I think Micah, along with Bill Williamson, maybe Xavier, might be on the other side of that spectrum, of that dynamic, because there was talk in several articles about how there's going to be some internal issues that could tear the gang apart. And usually that happens because you have within a group, like 2 other groups form, right? 2 subgroups that are at odds with each other. So I could see that happening. You have Arthur's faction, which is him, Sadie, Marston, maybe 1 or 2 others. And then on the other side, you have Micah leading that group, along with maybe Bill Williamson, as well as Xavier, and some of the other unnamed members of Dutch's gang. But it'll be interesting to see how the character development plays out between Micah and Arthur going into Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, when it comes to members of Dutch's gang, it feels very similar to a mafia, right? You have, Dutch, he's the Don, the Godfather. You have Arthur as, the main enforcer, the main lieutenant, and you have all the other lower level, thugs on the streets, all the made men and women. But then with every gang, with every mafia family, you have a consigliere. And I have the feeling, the thought, that maybe Hosea Matthews, who is Dutch's best friend, might be that consigliere, might be the old guy where you go to for advice and wisdom from his own life experiences. He's known Dutch since, the late 1870s, according to trailer number 3. And obviously, he's probably had a lot of life experiences, good experiences, bad experiences. He probably has a lot of knowledge. And I'm sure that he has advice that would probably help you throughout Red Dead Redemption 2. Hosea Matthews might not be the oldest member of the Vanderlin crew. That honor likely goes to Uncle, but he might as well be the first. He claims he met his best friend Dutch sometime in the 1870s when the two men were simultaneously trying to rob each other. Yeah, they were hucksters trying to rob each other. Each seeing a kindred spirit in the other, the two became fast friends. So Hosea Matthews, Dutch's best friend, obviously nowhere to be found in 1911. So it's possible something happens to him in 1899 or thereabouts, as Hosea said, right? So I'm very intrigued by Hosea Matthews. Is he going to be one of those consigliere types that Dutch leans on for like advice or information, or Arthur does whenever there's an issue that comes up and he's like, Hosea, I'm having this problem. What do you think I should do? So, I mean, he does seem like the type that likes to tell stories, because you're sitting around the campfire in trailer 3 and he's telling the story about how he met Dutch. So it's going to be interesting to see how his character plays out. Is he going to be 100% loyal to Dutch? Or is he reminiscing on how Dutch used to be and how he's changed? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of character Hosea Matthews ends up becoming in the events of Red Dead Redemption 2. Another new member of Dutch's gang in Red Dead Redemption 2 is Charles Smith, who we first see in, I believe, the artwork, the original artwork. I think he is the Native American character that we see among the 7. And I think we have all of them figured out, I believe. We'll go over that in a minute. My theory as to who's who in this lineup. Anyways, Charles Smith is one of the younger members of the gang, and is considering that we see him offer to freely help Arthur in the second trailer and partaking in what looks like an organized street fight in the third. He's always up for a fight. So I think that Charles Smith is going to be an ally of Arthur. He's going to probably end up in that Arthur camp that we're talking about. You know, him, Charles Smith, Sadie, along with John Marston. That's where I feel like Charles is going to reside. Maybe Lenny as well. We might see Lenny over there. We might see Karen. I don't know. I just get this feeling, and I could be wrong about this. Let me know what you think in the comment section, that eventually we're going to see something happen to the gang. I feel like it's going to break in half. Whether it's Dutch's doing or it's internal issues, and Dutch starts to see one group as, you know, the problem and the other group, you know, his allies. I honestly don't know. I'm just speculating. I love speculating, by the way. I think most people do. But I think Charles Smith is going to be a very interesting character. He's obviously Native American, and he has an English name. So it makes me wonder, is that by choice? Does he also have a Native American name? What is his heritage? What tribe does he come from? What's his backstory? So he is a very mysterious character to him, obviously, and I hope we do learn more about Charles Smith. All the way from Ireland, it's Sean McCullough. And yesterday, like, I read contradictory articles. Like, one said his name was Sean McCullough, and the other one said his name was Sean McGuire. So I think it's confirmed that his name is, in fact, Sean McCullough. Now, this may be the guy you want to hang out with, and this may be another friend and ally to Arthur. I know I'm envisioning these factions in my head, but like, Sean is another young firebrand of the group. In our demo, IGN heard him tell a story about how he once got into a brawl after trying to gun someone down, but realizing he had no bullets. He may not be the sharpest knife in the shed, but he's definitely a good wild card to have on your side in a fight. Plus, from what I read yesterday, he's supposed to be an all-around fun, humorous guy. So he has a very good personality. He's easygoing, but he's willing to take up a pistol and, you know, get into a firefight with you, even if he forgets the damn bullets. So Sean is going to be a very interesting character. I think I'm going to like Sean, hopefully a lot more than Irish, because to be honest, I never liked Irish back in Red Dead Redemption. He was just worthless in my honest opinion. Another new character featured in Red Dead Redemption 2. We have no idea what's going to become of him. Lenny. And I think Lenny in the demo actually goes off with Karen and Bill Williamson, along with, let's see, Morgan, to rob a bank in Valentine. So he's part of that crew that goes off and robs a bank. While we don't know much about Lenny besides his name, in the demo he helped guilt Arthur into robbing a bank, so we know he's a member of the gang who believes in honor among thieves. So from that little bit of information, he's very thirsty when it comes to wanting to go out committing crimes and robbing and making money. So I get the feeling that Lenny's potentially, he strikes me as a younger gentleman, ambitious. He wants to make the money. He wants to make the cash, the gold. And I think he's going to be quickly one of the first people on board for any type of robbery, whether it's a bank robbery or stagecoach heist or trying to take out a train. I think he's eager. And it's going to be interesting to see where he aligns in the gang, like whether he ends up being a friend of Arthur or he ends up swaying on a potentially different side. Then again, there may not be no different sides. There may be just one side and they all just go their separate ways. It may be just a complete splinter and breakdown. There may not be any like infighting or factions, but come on, I get the feeling that's going to transpire. So Lenny is another interesting character, but at the moment we really don't know much about him. Now here's a guy you're going to want to be friends with. And why? Because he's the damn cook. Pearson. Pearson serves as the camp's cook, and he came to the gang and less an outlaw or a thief and more of a man who, for whatever reason, left traditional societal life behind. He takes his position seriously and always grateful when Arthur offers to go out hunting. So this is how I feel. I'm going to do my best when I'm playing this game to keep Pearson happy, because, you know, he's the one who's in charge of the food, you know, cooking the food, preparing the food, making sure that the rest of the camp is fed. But it's up to Arthur to go out there and get the stuff, right? To get the deer, the rabbits, and everything else in order to get it to Pearson, for Pearson to get the job done when it comes to his culinary skills. So I get the feeling that Pearson is probably going to be a good guy. At least that's the vibe I'm getting from him. He seems like a nice guy. Just a nice guy. He just wants to cook, you know. He's got some skills. He just wants to cook, okay? Just give him some damn meat to cook, okay? God. Maybe some carrots and some tomatoes, you know, and some pots and some fire. And, you know, he's going to be one happy camper. And the final character from Dutch's gang that we know of, making a return from Red Dead Redemption, it's Uncle. Yep, that Uncle. Uncle as well, Uncle. We see him rambling drunk in 1911, and in 1899, we see him, well, as a rambling drunk. He seems to easily get on Arthur's bad side since he spends more time treating hangovers than he does doing work around camp. And that's something we read about yesterday, was the fact that he was drunk, he was like laying around in his underwear, which is very similar to how he is in 1911 in Red Dead Redemption. And despite the fact that he's kind of a rambling drunk and, you know, most would say worthless, he also has a loyalty to him. There must be some quality to Uncle that Marston found appealing enough to, you know, take with him to Beecher's Hope to live with Abigail and Jack. So despite Uncle's obvious flaws of being a drunkard, of being lazy, there must be something good there, because near the end of Red Dead Redemption, he does step up and he does help you defend the farm in order for Jack and Abigail to get away. So yeah, when push comes to shove, you definitely want Uncle on your side, but try and keep the bottle away from him. Him and the bottle don't do so well. So let's quickly go over who's who. And I believe this is 100% accurate. To the far right, we have Charles Smith. Beside him is Micah Bell, or Mackay Bell. Then, of course, next to him, with the hat, pretty obvious from day one, Bill Williamson. In the middle, Arthur Morgan. Off to the other side of Arthur, it's Dutch. Then, beside Dutch, I believe that's the Xavier Escuela. And to the far left, I think that is, in fact, a younger John Marston. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Nothing else new there. But I feel like that's pretty accurate. I mean, some people might debate whether or not that's actually John Marston to the far left, but I think it's safe to say that is, in fact, younger Marston, along with Xavier, Dutch, Arthur Morgan, Bill Williamson, Mackay, and, of course, Charles Smith. So, for my opinion, that's the lineup here, the 7 that you see on the first artwork that came out regarding Red Dead Redemption 2. So there you go. That is all the characters we know of, and definitely some of them are, in fact, characters from Dutch's gang appearing in Red Dead Redemption 2. And there are a few unknowns. We don't know their names. We don't know their backstories. We'll probably learn more about them in the next few weeks or months to come. And I'm sure Rockstar wants to keep, some things secret. They don't want to tell us everything. So we may have to wait till October before we find out about every single member of Dutch's gang, as well as, their backstories and their likes and their dislikes and their purpose, their place in the gang, what brought them to Dutch, as well as, how they interact with Arthur. Are they going to be seen as more of an ally? Are they going to be seen more as an antagonist? It'll be interesting to see how all these characters work together and sometimes don't work together, as well as who ends up being on whose side, because everything's implying that this is the point where the gang does start to fall apart and fracture. And whenever you have a fracture, that means that one group eventually becomes 2 or more groups, or they just splinter and go their separate ways. But I think before that happens, I think we're definitely going to see some sort of infighting. So I am of the opinion, speculation here, that we're going to see that happen. Arthur on one side and maybe Mackay on the other side. And I don't know where Dutch is going to end up in this sort of thing. Maybe on that side, maybe on Arthur's side. Maybe it just depends on how you play the game. I don't really know. But it'll be interesting to find out how all this transpires and the fates of all these new characters, because the old ones, we already kind of know where they're going. But we don't know what they were like 12 years prior in Red Dead Redemption 2. So either way, it's going to be interesting to get an additional story for Dutch, for Williamson, especially Xavier. I'd love to know more about Xavier, as well as the new characters like Sadie, Mackay, and of course the others like Charles Smith, Lenny, Pearson, especially more about a younger John Marston. So let me know below in the comment section, once again, which member of Dutch's gang that we already know about, besides Marston, are you most intrigued by, and why? And if you're new to the GeauxBurns Nation and you're just excited about Red Dead Redemption 2 as I am, I'm going to continue covering it, everything going forward into the summer, into the fall, leading up to the launch of Red Dead Redemption 2, articles, trailers, etc. Plus, we're going to live stream Red Dead Redemption 2, and before that, we're going to go back and live stream Red Dead Redemption on the Xbox One X. And going forward, Red Dead Online and probably the DLCs for Red Dead Online. So I'm very excited for Red Dead Redemption 2. And if you are as well, you are welcome to join the GeauxBurns Nation. Hit the subscribe button. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, all the social media to the GeauxBurns Nation linked below in the description section.